Hello and welcome to Interface on the Sunday evening. My name is Thembi Samachele. Thank you very much for joining us. The African Union's decision to elect Minister Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma as the chair of its commission has been welcomed with great excitement by the Southern African region. But there are those that are a little bit skeptical. They question the difference her appointment will bring to African politics. Tonight on Interface, we explore both sides of the discussion. And as usual, we welcome your thoughts on SMS through 3726 or on our Facebook page. It's Interface on SABC 3 if you'd like to find us. Now, let's welcome our studio guest tonight. Mzuki Siqobo is the senior lecturer at the Politics Department of the University of Pretoria, and also one of our guests is the head of the Politics Department at the University of Johannesburg, Professor Chris Landsberg. Thank you so much for coming through, and welcome to both of you.
Thank you.
Lots of excitement this week. We have Minister Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma being elected, first female to the position, first person from the Southern African region in 49 years. So understandably, great excitement. But beyond that, beyond all the fanfare, is there really any significance to the appointment? Prof?
No, of course there's significant to the appointment, because the appointment has been sold with so much fanfare that she's going to make a spectacular difference. I have to say to you, however, that a lot of the views that were expressed verged on a misunderstanding, a misinterpretation, a mischaracterization of the African Union. Let me actually start with something you said in your introduction. It's factually absolutely incorrect. And we had a very prominent former businessman turned analyst lately who described some of us who described some of us as lazy on this issue. You've just said that it's the first person in 49 years from Southern Africa. It's absolutely not correct.
All right.
Salim from Tanzania, member of SADC, founding country of SADC.
But I suppose what we mean is Southern African region, as in down here in the south, not Tanzania up in the east.
But you see, now this is now interesting. Tanzania was one of the countries that vehemently lobbied for South Africa. Now I tell you what the problem is. Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma, our minister, enjoys a great deal of credibility, stature, born in part out of the time when she was foreign minister and so on. I'm prepared to go as far as saying that she was the strongest candidate. But this beast we're dealing with, this monstrosity called the African Union, is of such a nature that she'll have to take a cue from heads of states. She can't go there and tell heads of states what to do. She'll only be as strong or allowed to do what they allow her to do.
No, but I think the argument, Prof, is that because of what she's done at Home Affairs, because of her track record, because of how strong she is, she'll be able to push through whatever agenda much more strongly than a Jean Ping or somebody else that was in that position.
Even that is speculation. It's speculative. I know she's going to be a strong person. She won't be any pushover. Okay, let's make that point. But I suggest to you, when our minister charters into others in the next 6 weeks, she's going to find an institution that is deeply politicized. And let me just give you one example, and then we can move on the debate and we can hear my colleagues' views as well. The chef de cabinet, the head of cabinet of outgoing Commissioner Jean Ping, happens to be a Nigerian. Now, she has the right, like all commissioners before her, chairpersons before her had, to appoint her own chef de cabinet. But I can tell you now, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to know how Nigeria will interpret the fact that the Nigerian will have to make way for, I wonder who, a South African? So the only key point I want to make at this stage is that I think it was an ill-advised move on the part of South Africa to put a South African forward, because instead of uniting the continent, it has been a deeply divisive
I want us
episode.
to explore that a little bit more, a little later, but let's bring you in, Mzukisa, here. What Prof is saying is that, this is not the first person from SADC, but we understand that the region itself has other people that are not necessarily from the south.
Yes.
But if you look at it from just the layman's perspective, where SADC is really us down here, do we have any reason to celebrate and say, this is great for us, great for South Africa, great for women? Is she really going to make any difference in this position?
My view is that you've got to look at the substance of the appointment. And by this, I mean that there needs to be a vision, a strategy, an intent that underpin the appointment or the election of Dlamini-Zuma to the AU as a chair of the commission. You did not see this in this jostling for position. It was superficially about it is our turn to hold this position as Southern Afrikaners. And what this does really accentuates the existing regionalist divides that have always been there in the AU along Southern Africa, West Africa, East Africa, and North Africa, as well as, of course, those that draw from colonial lineage, Francophone, Lusophone, Anglophone.
But why did we fight so hard? I mean, we all watched the jostling for position, the 4 rounds of voting, all of this. Why were we fighting so hard, besides saying a South African is in there?
We fought hard, I suppose, to make an assertion of our presence as South Africa in the AU, because the argument is that if you go to the AU and you look at the corridors of the AU, people who hold positions, the officials who hold positions, people who walk with swagger in Addis in the AU are mostly West Africans. So I suppose the argument, not stated so overtly, is to break the stranglehold of the West Africans over the AU, as well as, of course, a perception that under Jinping, the AU was not, the Commission was not as dynamic as it could be. There was a very slow movement, and there was no robust leadership, and perhaps Southern Africa, SADC, in the person of Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma brings that. I suppose that's the logic, however flawed it is.
Could I touch on those? Because these are very key points Umzukizi is making. I mean, you know, he makes the point about tensions, for example, between Southern and West Africa. Now, if it's true, and I believe to an extent he's touching on a very serious raw nerve, what Africa needs more than anything else at this juncture in its history and the nature of world affairs is unity, not divisions. I'm putting it to you that since the formation of the OAU in 1963, with those 3 camps that we're familiar with, I don't think the continent has been as divided in its history as it has been over the last 3 years. And I really want to say to you the last 3 years, from Libya, Cote d'Ivoire, and now this thing. This is not good for Africa. But you asked a fundamentally key question. Why did we push so hard? I mean, and that is the question that I am curious to find out for South Africa. Why do we believe that we could make a difference? Or let me put it another way. Even if Dr. Zuma can prove to be this superwoman who's going to go in there and rescue the place, at the end of the day, it just brought out this real politic between great powers in the continent and so on. And I honestly believe it was an ill-advised strategy, not for SADC to go for it, but for South Africa to push for a candidate.
And the question is, Prof, how does Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma unite such a divided continent? And we will explore that right after this break. Stay with us.